So it's Friday, October 23rd. Welcome to the Friday morning broadcast, and we've got a lot to talk about. First, I want to thank Mallory. She's about 40 miles away producing. She has a meeting downtown today, so far this has worked great. I really appreciate everything she does. We have a lot to go over. One of the things I want to talk to you, we're here at San Juan Capistrano. Last March, when we were all going into the lockdown because of COVID, on St. Joseph's Day, March 19th, the cliff swallows came up from Argentina and they settle in San Juan Capistrano. Everybody knows that's an annual event. Well, today's the day that they start going back to their land in Argentina. They'll start leaving in pretty big groups. And the reason that I brought that up is we have an election coming up in 11 days, and we've gotten calls from people. I've got friends in the business. They've gotten calls, a lot of calls from clients. And they all want to know what to do and how to get ready for the election. Well, the key to what we do is discipline. And to have a plan and to kind of stick with the plan. Well, the swallows of Capistrano, the really interesting part I found is that the path they take, that they'll start taking later on today, they'll go south. San Juan Capistrano is just a little bit north of San Diego. They'll go south along the California Baja, and then they'll cross Mexico, get over to the Gulf of Mexico, then they'll head south again and run along the Andes Mountains before they get to, it's near Goya, Argentina. And they go to another mission building, which is a couple hundred miles south of Goya. And they run about 200 miles a day, and it takes them 30 days to make this trip. So they spend 2 months of their year commuting back and forth. How's it possibly that far? Well, I used to do a lot of traveling, mostly to Japan. And I thought, well, it can't be that far. Well, it is indeed about the same distance from Kansas City to Tokyo as it is from Kansas City to the mission they go to in Argentina. So during those 30 days, they really don't eat very much. They stock up on bugs and water before they leave so that they're efficient in their travels. But it's a discipline and they follow it. And they'll be back, they'll leave today and then they'll be back next March. But it's pretty phenomenal. The other thing about San Juan Capistrano, and this is their path here, and it shows how they go. That black line's not exactly accurate, but it's kind of close. The other thing about San Juan Capistrano, there's two other things happening this week. First off is yesterday, they opened their first Target. Now, San Juan Capistrano is about the same size as Hutchinson, Kansas. They got their first Target, but what they opened was a new concept by Target, and it's a mini Target. And these are really small Targets. They actually put it into an old Ralph's grocery store building. So imagine a Price Chopper that we're used to, and that's about the size of it. It's not this huge box. And each of those mini Targets are going to be geared toward the local market. So if you've ever been to San Diego, you know that the weather there is, well, just generally nice. And so you're not going to see any winter tools. But if they put one in, say, Pella, Iowa, it's going to have the winter tools they need for that area. So Target's creating these special buildings, special tools, special stores to fit that specific market, which is a pretty neat concept on how they're changing their marketing. The other thing about San Juan is it was announced Wednesday, they're going to get their first In-N-Out burger. And that's pretty exciting, especially for the West. But you've got a town that's roughly the size of Hutch, and they've never had an In-N-Out burger, which is huge in California. They've never had a Target, which is big all over the place. So you see business expansion. That's always exciting for anybody like me to see when companies are actually expanding their business. My wife's excited because Cheesecake Factory announced this week that they're expanding their menu. I don't know how, it's already about 30 pages, but they're adding, it looked to me like 16 new items are going to be called basically eternity items or something like that. And so the businesses are expanding, and that's good to see. So this is the route. It's disciplined. They follow that route twice a year, north one side, down the other side. It's pretty cool to see that discipline. And we kind of, I'm hoping we apply that over the next 11 or 12 days. So Mallory, let's go to the Dow Jones. Now you can see here our chart, the red, the silver, and the blue line are getting closer and closer and closer. What does that mean? Well, that means that we're not seeing a whole lot of volatility in the market. Yesterday we were up 150 points. Today indications are we're going to be up again. I watched the debate last night from beginning to end. It was very positive. We didn't have any brawls going on. It was just a nice, solid way to get some information. So it appears that had a good effect on everybody. And we'll have another update on the market. We only have 11 days to the election. all I really see is that little bitty dip back there, the first of this month. And other than that, it's just been a solid movement on this market. We've got our Nike swoosh going on, uh, and we'll see what happens. But the thing to remember is that after any election, historically, 75% of the time, from election day to the end of the year, the market goes up, regardless of who gets in office. Our founders were geniuses in how they structured this. So the president isn't all powerful. He has a lot of other things going on. So while the presidential election may have some impact, it will not bring us down. So things look good right now. Let's go to the next one, Mallory. This is the world charts, and you can see I did have to cut us off early last night because I had an out of office meeting, but you can see that in general, we all went down last week. Still leading the pack and has been for months is NASDAQ, which is tech heavy. We've looked at some different mutual funds. Chris Toman and I were talking, there's some funds of surprises this year, and they are tech heavy funds. So those are the ones that have done well. But generally, the world markets are still down from the first of the year. And there's the United States with our three indices down 1%. That's still in pretty good shape, and we'll see how we go. The thing to remember on the S&P 500, we are within less than 6%. I'm sorry, with the Dow Jones average, we're within less than 6% of hitting 30,000. 6% is not that far. It's actually 5.77%. We could conceivably go above 30,000 before the end of the year. That's what we would call a benchmark, a support level. We go above 30,000 and some really good things could happen. So we're really within striking distance of that, and we could easily see that. And we could see it pretty quick. 5.77% is not that big of a movement. So we could go from there. Next one, Mallory. And this is our unemployment. Look at that blue line. We had a severe drop in new unemployment filings this week. It really went down, and it surprised almost everybody. So again, that's more good news that we're seeing. Do we expect it to get worse? No, I've said over and over and over, we're cautious. But to see that drifting back down is just a super sign. And so that's bringing the red line down, which is the moving average. And this is actually good news. So as I've said before, we're looking for trends. Are we going to see it again? I don't know, but I do know that what we saw come out yesterday was really good news. And then the next piece of good news comes here with U.S. housing starts. The September numbers came out, and there was shock across the industry. There was a jump up. I've told you before, we typically see a jump up in April, a jump up in October. That's not surprising at all. But to see the largest 1 month jump since 2007, which is exactly what happened in September, is incredible. Now, a lot of that's being spurred by low interest rates, but there is still a huge piece of that is just growth. And so it's wonderful to see that. Now, on the heels of that is going to come October, and we'll see if my traditional comments are going to hold true, and we have another jump in October. But remember that red dotted line, we need to be above that. And we are in the housing industry, that doesn't look like a lot between the red dotted line and the moving average, but that is a lot. So, and then when you see back here, where you see that blue line pop up to above 1.6 adjusted, those are just really good pieces of news that we like to see. So I don't want to get a bit too excited. We're certainly not getting too excited, but we're feeling very positive. This is the sector chart. And the reason I'm showing this is because the question came up about a K recovery. That was a big deal in the previous debate. And so I took some time to create a chart that you're going to see in a second. But this is the sectors that we deal with and how they've done, how they did basically pre-COVID and how they've done since COVID, and then how they've done year to date. And you can see that leading the way, you go down, you got consumer goods has done well, consumer services has done well, telecommunications has done well. So there are some industries that are doing really well. There's some industries that are really getting pounded, and one of them is gas and energy, and everybody knows that. So this is how we're doing. Now on this next chart, you're going to see how they've done. That was the same thing. It's the pre-COVID, after COVID, and then for the year to date. So you can see how those look and see that if somebody says, what industry should I be in? Well, here's what you should do. You should do what I do, which is I put a little bit in every industry, but I weight them. So right now I'm heavy in technology. I'm light in real estate. I'm light in energy. And that's the only way to work sectors, is that you have to have things diversified. You've got to be, and you can't be even in all of them. You've got to do the work we do, which is research, and decide what percentage you want. And so Mallory, now the next one. And this is the K recovery that they were talking about. So I started at 0, that big black line is 0. And basically that's March 24th. That was the low for the year. And then every one of those lines represents one of the different sectors. Obviously the blue one at the bottom is energy, but what they're talking about at K recovery is uneven return to normal. And that is normal to have a K recovery, where you have an uneven return, where you see things coming back at a different pace than others. That's just kind of how things work. So it is unusual to have it. The spread between the blue line at the top and the blue line at the bottom is a little bit big, but it is totally normal to see what's called a K recovery, and it's going to happen. So that's kind of an illustration of what they're talking about. The other thing that they're referring to, I'm not going to get into it because they're referring to socio-demographic recovery, and that kind of goes with the territory depending on the industry. So we've covered a lot of material today, and I wanted to point out as a refresher, we talked about discipline, how important that is right now. I don't think anybody should be making any huge moves between now and the election. We certainly aren't. I don't think that who wins the election is going to, in this department, we aren't going to make a lot of changes based on who wins the election. It's just a matter of we need to be properly allocated and properly diversified, which we should be doing anyway. So that's where we are. Now, remember, elections in 11 days, and we'll all go for there. Now, the other thing to remember about this is over 40 million people have already voted, 40 million. Now, that's a lot when you consider since 1972, the highest percentage of people casting ballots was 60%. Since then, that number has drifted down to where the last election, 52.5% of registered voters cast a ballot. That's pretty low. Now we're seeing that 40 million have voted ahead of time. So we'll see what happens. It may not change that percentage because a lot of people are voting ahead of time to avoid lines and COVID and things like that. We'll just see how interesting this election goes. So that's where we are. We'll be back 1 week from today, and we will then be just a couple of days from the election, see how it goes. We're out of debates, so all we have to do is television advertising and keep your eye on it, make good decisions, everybody vote. Thanks for being with us. We appreciate your time. Hope it's been interesting. Tell your friends. It's nice to see a lot of return visitors here. It's really great to see those names. Thanks again. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next Friday morning.